So hi, this is a lecture about our next topic in HL. So we have topic 9.4, which is market research. So when we're looking at market research, we're systematically gathering data about individuals and organizations, and we're analyzing that data to make decision making, right? And the reason you would want to do this is you might want to improve your product or service. So that could be, incremental change to your product or service that you have. You could generate a new idea for a product. So you might identify a need in the market or a need with a segment of the market and be able to come up with a new idea for that. You can increase your chances of success in the market because you can find out information, demographic information, preferences that consumers within a market might have. So that's going to increase your chances of success. You can determine how much it would cost or how much you should price your product. If it's too expensive, then you are going to have some issues and not be able to sell your product. If it's too cheap, then you're not going to make enough money or you're leaving money on the table. You need to, it also will help you understand what kind of constraints that you will be working under. So anything from the materials that it's made out of to the packaging that it goes into, the kinds of consumers that you might want to market to, you name it. It's going to help to identify some constraints. Whether there is a potential market. Not everything that's a good idea is potentially marketable. Just for instance, it'd be great if everybody ate bugs instead of meat because bugs are high source of quality protein, but the potential market for eating bugs is pretty small, so you may not be very successful within that market. Um, you might develop an idea that is a market requirement. Okay, identifying any sort of promotional strategy. How will you promote your product? Gathering demographic information. So demographics is sort of the a picture of the people who are using your product. You might gather family information or economic trends. We've done this with, for instance, with the Google word search that we've done. Technological trends and scientific advances. You could be, doing some research into those kinds of things, and then just consumer information in general. So these are all reasons why you would want to do market research. And this right here is the actual definition from the IB, so you got to make sure you know that. Okay, and this is a bit like stuff that we've done before, so it's going to kind of touch on some other topics that we've spoken about before, particularly in this next thing. So we need to consider consumers' reaction to technology and subsequent impact on the design, development, and market segmentation. So in other words, they want you to know this kind of thing. They want you to think about like, how will consumers' reactions to technology in particular impact a design and the market segment that you're going after. So for instance, this is the techno file. Whenever you see this file, it means lover, right? So this is a person who loves technology, okay? Or a lover of technology. So they're going to welcome technological change. They're your early adopters. So, this is an image of people waiting in line to get a new iPhone, right? And they're camped out in front of an iPhone store to get a new iPhone on the day that it's released. That's your classic technophile, and they're early adopters. Okay, then you got your next group of people, right? And then again, what we're trying to do is consider how consumers, this is sort of like a case study, how consumers react to technology. So if you have a techno-cautious person, this is someone who needs some convincing before buying the technology, right? This is the majority of people. Most people are not early adopters. Most people don't run to and camp out in front of the Apple store. Um, these are the people who, once the technology is proven, they're going to be the ones that are going to be buying most of the items. So this is your just sort of average person shopping for a cell phone. It's not maybe the top of the line, but it's or the newest and best, but it's very functional. Okay, and then we've got the technophobe. Okay, and so again, you got to be thinking about how consumers react to technology. So a technophobe is going to not want any technological change at all. Generally, these are the people who say, you know what? the thing I've got right now works for me. I remember actually my mom was like this. She had her flip phone, literally a flip phone like this, and she was like, I don't need anything else. I have a flip phone and that's good for me. But then once she got her first smartphone, she doesn't know how she would live without it now. So she loves the thing. So it's kind of that kind of thing. Technophobes often resist the technological change until they're forced into it, and then they generally will come along. Okay, so you know your classic older person usually I mean. If you look at the sort of demographics of these people, these are all young people right here. Technophiles tend to be early adopters. They tend to be young people. Your, techno cautious people are going to be most other people, and then your older demographic is going to be the people who resist change, right? Okay, so let's move on. They also want you to consider how, a second sort of case study, how do consumer reactions um, to green design, how does that impact design development and market segmentation? And we've covered these before, but we've got the eco warriors, right? So they actively demonstrate on environmental issues. So this is somebody who's swimming in front of a this is an oil rig that's being towed out to sea. So this is somebody who's definitely actively demonstrating on an environmental issue. So these are going to be the kind of people who, um, you know, marketing to them, there are going to be a small segment of the market, um, but they're going to be your hardest core sort of supporters if you can capture them. Okay, let's move on to these people, eco champions, right? So this is again something that we've heard. We've heard this term champion a few times too, right? So and these are the kinds of people that are going to, it's a bigger segment of the market, and they're going to um, adopt green designs better than the next couple of people here. But they're going to be the ones who are truly sort of living the life, and they are going to champion those environmental issues within whatever organization they're in. Okay, and we all know people like this, I'm sure. Okay, here we go. We got eco fans. So they're enthusiastically adopt environmentally friendly practices as consumers. So, for instance, just the little thing of like, don't, bring your own bag to Tamimi, and, don't use plastic bags, right? So this is you making an environmentally friendly choice as a consumer. So these are like the eco fans. And how could you market to those kinds of people? What kind of market research would lead you to understand their needs? You know, um, and then lastly, we've got our ecophobes, right? So we've heard of these people before, and they actively resent talk of environmental protection. You should have just a quick look at this video, because this is exactly an ecophobe. Like literally, this is called rolling. So it's COAL rolling. And basically, what these people have done, they've rigged up some exhaust pipes on their trucks that just spews out black sooty smoke, just to sort of say, you know, we don't like you. Literally, this truck is called the Prius Repellent. So you can have a look at what they are. These people are like classic ecophobes. Okay, now what we need to do is look at the sort of relative advantages and disadvantages of some market research strategies. So you'll need to know all of these market research strategies, and really what they want you to do in the IB is actually be using these market research strategies, particularly when you get to your IA. So this is actually very important. When we start the IA at the beginning of next school year, you'll definitely need to be looking through and doing some of these things right here. Okay, so here we go. Literature search. So literature search is basically you understanding the literature that came before. So you're looking at, understanding consumer reports and media about product development. It's understanding the history of a product, right? You might use encyclopedias or Wikipedia. You might use newspapers or magazines or manufacturing information. But you want to understand the product over time. That's the key thing here. It's for that historic understanding of it. Okay, you can use any reliable source of information. There's usually a ton of data, and this is the problem with literature search, is it can take a long time. Because there's so much data, it can be very, very time consuming. And the data you get can be qualitative or quantitative. And here's some steps, to a classic sort of literature search. You have a question, You search for evidence about that question. You select relevant studies. You extract their characteristics and assess the study quality. And then you want to do what we call a meta-analysis. So that's where you're looking at, you keep following, you keep going up and down the stairwell every time you do an evaluation, or every time you find a new piece of literature, and then you try to put that all together in the end. What is that telling us about our products? Okay. Oops. I'm just going to fix this real quick. So this got moved up. There we go. Sorry about that. Here we go. Back to this. Here we go. We're expert appraisal. So this is where you're seeking knowledge and skills of an expert. Okay. It's an issue because expert knowledge and advice are gained. So you get a lot of expert advice, on this, as compared to a user trial. We'll get to a user trial, but users tend to be inexperienced with that. But an expert may be biased, right? So they may be someone who says, I know all this stuff. I don't need to, I know what's right, and maybe they don't. Maybe they just don't exactly know. Expert knowledge can help you decide direction. It might be difficult to locate an expert though, so that's an issue, locating an expert, and the data is usually qualitative. Okay, user trial. So this is where it's different from expert advice, because a user trial, they're inexperienced. Okay, so you're basically observing people using products and collecting comments from those people. They're not specialists. That means they're not experts, it makes it easier and cost effective, because often experts are expensive. Okay, because they've built up expertise that tends to make them expensive. But users can be inexperienced, and they may not carry out the tasks that a product's meant to do in the way that you expected. The data is usually qualitative. Okay, here we go. User research. So this is obtaining users' response to questionnaires and surveys and interviews. It's cheap and quick to conduct, and then you're getting your data is qualitative or quantitative. It could be either. Perceptual mapping. So this comes from the word perception. So perceptual mapping is basically kind of having people, what are their perceived ideas about something? And usually it's done in sort of this axis right here. So on the y-axis, you'll have some, opposites. So classy, affordable. So, expensive or affordable. You'll have conservative or sporty, right? And then you kind of have people drop, their perceptions of different brands or products on this axis and plot them. So do people find Mercedes-Benz more classy or more affordable? Okay, well, it seems like they're on the more classy end. Do they find Porsche to be more sporty or more conservative? Right? So you would plot all of these on here, and that gives you some idea of how people feel about a certain product. Okay, it's pretty easy to conduct. It can be it's qualitative, because it's really looking at somebody's perceptions, and it's definitely biased, right? Like this is 100% biased, because somebody might say, okay, well, I think Mazdas are sporty, or like Jaguars are sporty. Maybe that should be over here. It depends on who you're asking. Okay, so that's important to understand, that you could get biased answers out of these things. You should click on this and read the article about perceptual mapping right here. Okay, and then we have environmental scanning. So we've already talked about this at some point. Environmental analysis, so you're carefully studying various factors influencing a business. It's a process where organizations monitor the relevant environment to identify opportunities and threats to their business. Okay, and again, click on this, read through the article that's associated with this. All right, guys, thanks for watching. See you next time.